Hi, I'm Davanna. I am a Christian womanhood and femininity coach. And I have worked for years and years in control settings, helping women to go from where they are to where they want to be. I am a registered addiction specialist. And so we spend a lot of time learning about the brain and behavior and how to learn positive replacement behaviors and just how to really think your way out of situations and raise the level of morality so that you can show up different and you can have the things that you desire in life. You can hold them in your hand, not just in your head, right? So, one of the things that I find there is when I work for a controlled agency, like when I work for somebody else's business, I can't talk about God and Jesus and, spirit. I felt like God was telling me to come here to this part and to work with people before they got to jail. A lot of the people would come there and they would say, if I had these principles, if I had like forethought, morality, and just somebody to tell me how to do what I'm supposed to be doing and do it with grace, I don't feel like I would have ever come to jail. Like, so I feel like I'm called to the prevention end of things to help people have pleasure from normally pleasurable things and deeply rooted satisfaction. And I think that that's a thing that we have in womanhood and femininity that the world is almost talking us out of appreciating right now, and I don't think that's a great thing. I don't think it's a great thing for us as a person. And I don't think it's a great thing for the people who are in our collateral space, right? Our children, our parents, our mates. I think that when womanhood is not present or a person's not intentional about womanhood, everybody suffers. I think the same thing about manhood and masculinity, but we're women, we're talking here. So I wanted to talk about being a rung of your own security, right? So, one of the things that's very, very true about femininity and womanhood is we're the weaker vessel, right? And we are depending on being interconnected and having some safety in that. So, the way that one of the first things that we do is we trust in biblical headship. I have 5 points of things that I've come up with for a woman to be a rung of her own security, right? So, one of the things that we can beautifully do is we can trust God with biblical headship. God saw what we were going to go through before He laid the foundation of the earth. He knows the end before the beginning, right? And that's the way that God works. And He knows that we were going to be dealing with 2022 challenges when He started it all. And He wrote a manual for us, like in His own compassion, as much of a gentleman as He is, He wrote a manual for us. And us Jesus people can trust the manual, right? So down in biblical headship, the God is the head, and the man is under him, and the woman is under her, right? And so above us, essentially, women have two rungs of security, and then we are our own security. We're supposed to be very, 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 very safe. This is the thing that the enemy don't want us to know. A lot of us are out here dealing with anxiety and not feeling safe at all. And we don't understand that the way God designed it, we're supposed to be like double bubble wrapped. And then we are our own security, right? So when we trust the framework, the masculine framework that is the Bible itself, there's like guidelines of how far you're supposed to go and what stuff you're supposed to leave alone. There's beautiful relationship you're supposed to connect to, and then you're able to trust the framework, right? When we trust God at the top, and then we are intentional about being with someone who's equally yoked, right? We make sure that we vet a partner well. Should we choose to be in a relationship, right? If that's the stage you're in, or if you're already in, and then you trust that when God says headship and he and safety and all of those things, that the man is the head of the woman, that trust the man that you picked to make good decisions, right? Because should be a part of how you're vetting and why you picked him. And then so when you, and I'm talking about husbands, right? Not just boyfriend or man. So a husband, the word is house band, right? The band around the house, the security around the house. And when you are vetting well and you choose someone who is security for you, their band around the house makes it to where you feel safe to move inside and your femininity can safely blossom. And if you trust that process, you are the third rung in your own safety. Now, that's point number one, uh, trusting in biblical headship. And then it comes down to you, right? Then it comes down to how you're navigating the space and how you're making sure that you are taking care of you. God's already taken care of you. If you chose well in a mate, the mate should be doing his part to take care of you, right? You guys are two, you have two become one, and you are a part of his decision making and all of those beautiful things. And then there is point number two, which is develop your discernment. Flat out, the Bible says, the sheep know the shepherd's voice. You have to know that you know that you know when you are hearing from God. You have got to know when God is saying, no, baby, go left. You have to know this. You have to spend your private time with your spirituality as a priority. Set aside a time. Make sure that you are pouring into you. I'm going to say this a trillion times. We do not serve from an empty cup. We do not run on fumes. We fill our cup till it overflows and then we pour from the saucer. Um, so, the spiritual practice of making sure that you are full for first and all that get an understanding. Know when you're hearing from God, and then act on it. You have got to act on it, right? So many of us have said in hindsight, "Oh, I knew that was a red flag. Oh, I knew I should have paid attention. Oh, I knew I should." When you're not acting as a active part of your own security, you don't understand how much is involved in keeping you secure. God is always working on your behalf. 100% of the time, always. When you are in REM deep sleep and you are having sweet sleep, God is working hard on your behalf. He is always working. And if you don't know that, and if you don't appreciate what it's like to be a rung of your own security beautifully in a healthy way, you miss when God is doing it, you miss when your husband is doing it, and then you're not doing it well, so you don't understand the sacrifice of being a rung of your own security, of really perceiving of what you ought to do, making sense of it, and then seriously acting on your own behalf. There's a lot there. And when you're doing it well, you also appreciate the other people who are being healthy and doing it well. Okay, so point number three is understanding your biblical tools. If you are if you are not in the word and you are a grown, like seasoned Christian, still drinking Similac, and you don't know your like biblical tools, you don't know what you should pick up in this situation, what you should pick up in that situation. You are essentially like David out there fighting with the king's armor, and you have no idea what your rocks are. You have no idea in the spirit space, especially as women, we war in a very different way. Womanhood and femininity is strength under control. We are tearing it down and building it up in the spirit space in a way that is impactful. And if you don't know that that's a thing, you are forfeiting your armor. You really, really are. You are forfeiting your rocks, your ability to get in there and really do the thing that you're supposed to do. Um, so put on the whole armor of God. The Bible talks about it. Put on the whole armor of God. It is a real thing that we have to do. Develop your prayer life. You must know how to pierce the veil. Like, as a Christian person, you must understand that we are in this tangible world, and the spirit world overlaps it. And we as Christians, kind of, when you're a seasoned Christian, when you've moved to maturity, you understand the like foot in both realms. And and you uniquely, and then everybody connected to you gets to have the benefit of you being under an open heaven, of you being drilled down, of you being like doing a triage for when you come into contact with them, of you noticing when their rhythm is off. But when you are a Christian woman who understands Christianity and your prayer life does things in the other realm, when you can get a prayer through as a woman, it's a game changer. It really, really is, and your family has the benefit of having you on their team. You have the benefit of having you as your own, like, advocate. You are, seamlessly going into spirit space, have one foot, the Bible says, "Pray without ceasing." One foot here, one foot there. We are in both places beautifully. Another thing with knowing your biblical tools is have a multitude of wise counsel, like a multitude of wise counsel. There's some people out here who are going to give you the absolute wrong advice with good intentions. With good intent, like their heart is, I gave her the best that I had. Problem was, what they had was tainted. Their whole vantage point was tainted. If you are not going to Christian women who you can see them doing well, you know that they are doing well, you see their fruits. If you don't have a like counsel of them to go to, you might be doing yourself a disservice because people in the world are going to have a very different vantage point of your whole world problem, and they're not going to be able to guide you the way that a woman who understands womanhood, excuse me, and biblical values is going to be able to guide you. Be a member of a good church. Be a member of a great church, you guys. It is such an impactful thing. I've been at my church for over 15 years, and there's something about being with people who are on a wellness journey that is like yours. So I talk to my clients about, you guys ever did that whirlpool exercise when you're in a pool and you can go around it and you go around and you go around, and pretty soon if there's like five of you, the fifth person gets to just coast and go at the same speed as everybody else because the people in front of them are like breaking the tension in the water. It's like when ducks fly in a V, right? The first duck is taking the brunt of the pressure from the air. He's breaking the air, and the other ones don't have to fly as fast. That is what happens when you are in a good church. The enemy don't want you to know. The enemy does not want you to know how how much more smooth sailing it is to be connected to people who are pursuing God, who are loving God, who have the same frame of mind as you. The enemy wants you to spew things like, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I don't really go in I don't really go to church like that. You know what? There's a whole real hidden like momentum of the crowd that happens when we're talking about wellness, when we're talking about understanding the word, when we're talking about like digesting the topics, when we're talking about giving back, when we're talking about reaching out, when we're talking about doing womanhood well. Like the rest of us aren't figuring it out, and we're having the conversations about it, like within the group. And if you're missing out, you're missing out. So find a good church and practice the discipline of like gathering with the brethren. There's a reason why that made it in the word. Okay, point number four is have healthy boundaries. You guys, it's an enormous thing to be able to say no. And a rung of this is let your no have power and let it stand alone. You have to be able to say no. When your no has power, your yes will too. When I say yes to something, I'm all in. I'm all in. I do it to the best of my ability. I do it to glorify God. I do it with an end goal in mind, and I do it with beautiful feminine energy in the middle. I do my yes, and I protect my yes with a strong no. Okay, so that's a real thing that you have to have. Like I think one of the stigmas that's around femininity is we think that being a woman who practices self control and is feminine and practices and has a value for or practices mission means that you're going to be a walking doormat, and that's not what it is at all. That's not what it is. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that God is going to tell you that you have to get the last word all the time or anything like that. There are going to be some times when somebody may need to vent or something like that, and you don't get to mouth off. But so I say this all the time, there's a difference between codependency and Christianity, right? The motives are different, the outcomes are different, and the things in between. We are not just being slung around town for the purpose of, I hope they like me. I hope you know what I mean? Like, I want to fit in with that group. That is not what Christianity is. And that is not what the sacrifice of Christianity is. That is not what truly lending yourself to a situation is down in Christianity. That is not why we're doing it, right? So it's perfectly fine to say no. It's perfectly fine to say yes. And it's one of the things that we need to practice. Um, uh, I did talk about that one. So I think I talked about all of point number 4. And point number 5 is don't be a silly woman. Don't be a silly woman. The Bible talks about people creeping in and taking advantage of silly women. And I think a lot of the things that happen is that if the enemy had like a campaign and he had a narrative, some of the things that I hear us saying as women, and sometimes even Christian women, would be those things. A lot of things like, it's my body and I'll do anything I want with it. Sis, when you a Christian and you like value your body, there is no way that would be your like mantra. Like, how can that be your mantra? If you knew how valuable your body is and how strong the like mind body connection is, that's not a something. That's not a mantra. That's not a thing that we are proud of here in Christianity. I think some of us are moving through with mindsets and actions that we're proud of that God is ashamed of, right? Let's not buy the world's explanation of how they're doing it. We don't hop on trends. We are grounded in the word and it is timeless. God, in all of his like mercy, left us a manual and we can trust it. Okay? And we have to know that manual, right? We have to know we have to do this thing I call lock on and lock out. We have to lock on to the things of God and we have to lock out the rest. And know when you're hearing lock out verbiage. Know when this should be filed under we don't do that. And know when this is a go, right? It's a beautiful thing to be able to understand these are the boundaries and I get to bloom in the middle. Do you see a theme? Do you see a theme? This is God's boundaries, and I get to bloom in the middle. I get to do all of this fun stuff. Stop worrying about that stuff out there. That is none of your business. There's safety in here with God's beautiful stuff, right? God has created a masculine framework for us to bloom in the beautiful inside of, and we can do that stuff. And it's a very, very dangerous thing to take yourself out from the covering, right? So let's not be silly women who don't know how to keep ourselves safe. So I should say, absolutely know that when somebody else comes along and they are trying to exploit or disrespect us, I'm not saying that it's our sole responsibility to keep us safe because that would be unreal, right? People should not weaponize their power of choice against us. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not crisis situations. I'm talking about thinking your way through normal, healthy decision making, right? So that is what I have on being a rung of your own security. I think a lot of people shy away from um, doing femininity and womanhood and really loving and appreciating womanhood because of a lot of the stigma and a lot of the uh, way that people think that you're going to be taken advantage of because of the whole weaker vessel thing. And that's not the case. God says that a husband's prayers won't even reach heaven if he does not honor his wife, right? So God does not play about his women. God loves us very much. We are co heirs to the throne, and he is very serious about his women, just like he is serious about his sons and his children, right? Equal, equal, equal. And when we come together and we are a family, it is a very strong testimony of God, right? So I am Coach Davanna, and that is all that I have for you today. If you're interested in working with me, there is a link in the bio. Have a good day.